I'm Hartwig Fischer, Director of the British Museum, and I'm delighted to welcome you to tonight's Era of Reclamation talk. I invited Bonnie Greer to curate a project, and together we identified reclamation as a prevalent theme of our era. This is also an opportunity to listen and to learn as we move towards the great transformation of the British Museum.
I'm very pleased to be able to talk about MACT here in the British Museum because this institution has an international scope, and we do think in this new project that we are developing for MACT that MACT has something to bring to the new definition of museums. So MACT Mémorial ACTe opened on July 2015. So it's a very new museum, very recent museum, and it was opened as a Caribbean Center for Memory of Slave Trade and Slavery, but the institution is now evolving into a museum more than a memorial, and we will discuss that later, how it can be at the crossing of both. In this evolution, the institution deals more now with history, memory, and heritage. So just to show you the building itself, really next by the sea, the harbor of Pointe-à-Pitre. So Pointe-à-Pitre is the main city of Guadeloupe. It was built on the site of a former sugar factory, 19th century sugar factory. So having a museum dealing with this subject built on the site of the plantation, it's very different in the way the audience will interact with the institution than having this museum built in Europe.
One of the things that we want to do with these conversations, Hartwig and I, is to try, if we can, to get a little bit below the surface of things, you know, because there are big questions out there, really big questions. Everyone here has big questions. And we're going to try to be underneath them as much as we can. Because we think in a way that people are feeling things that maybe they're not saying, or there are new things that are being developed. And what is incredible about this museum is that its title is called Memorial. Are you creating a memory? Are you using a memory? Are you having the people bring a memory? What does memory mean, and what is it in relation to slavery?
What we realized actually is that the local audience that we are trying to target will be interested in what this institution can tell them about their life today.
Like right now?
Yeah, and also what the institution can bring as prospect for the future. So the link that we will have to make a link to memory through living practices and also contemporary debates that will be in the society. So we have to do the link, but our audience will not necessarily come in search or in quest of memory.
My own personal feeling is that the African-American experience, the African-American definition of the experience of slavery, the African-American story, not story so much, but tropes and language, impacts a lot on the story of slavery, on how people talk about it, on people talk about the Middle Passage experience, tragedy, all of that. And I think it impinges on the Anglophone world a lot. That's what I feel as a person from America. I think it impinges on this country a lot, maybe too much. Do those tropes come into the French-speaking Caribbean as well, in terms of the definitions of things, how people look at things, the way they tell the stories, who the bad guys were, who the good guys are. Do they take slogans like Black Lives Matter and then make it into their own thing? Does that happen in the Francophone world?
I'm not sure I can talk for the Francophone world overall, but at least I think one answer to that is that Mémorial ACTe is not a place of grief.
Can you say that again?
It's
what you just said.
Yeah, that the Mémorial ACTe is not a place where people will come to grieve. It's not a place for that. It's a place where people will come to explore their living culture. And it's up to us to make the link with the memory. And that's exactly what we are experiencing with the artists performing in the exhibition. So in every song, in many songs, you have this relation or this link to the memory of slavery. What will be described in the song is completely linked to that. But then when those artists will perform in the exhibition, it will give sense to the objects there, because also we have an audience which is not used to. There was some museums on the island, small museums, but there were no institution of this size, and so we have an audience which is not really used to this kind of cultural practice. So it's very important to kind of bring the barriers down by having those artists performing.
So what you're saying is that, in fact, the relation to that part of the museum, which is dedicated to the memory of slavery, you activate, and that's the other part of the name of this institution, ACT. You act.
Yeah.
So you activate that part of the collection, the display dedicated to the history of slavery, through contemporary art, through artists, through people coming in and building a link, an active link to today.
You said that that the museum was not a place to grieve. When I asked you about Anglophone museums as opposed to Francophone museum, you said immediately it's not a place to grieve. So then are you saying that maybe American British museums that are around this kind of question are first of all places of grievance, or should be a place of grief? And is that different? Because that's a real visceral question for me.
I think that when the museum is in situ, then the relation to this history is different than if you live in Paris and
when you say in situ, you mean when the
In the
museum is
plantation.
on the space where something happened.
Yes.
So in other words, your museum is on a plantation.
Yes.
And so therefore it makes that museum different, or the feeling about the museum different.
It makes the audience needs different. It gives tools to understand today and the future. So it gives the purpose is to give tools to people for them to move forward. But you need those to understand the past and to better understand what you're doing today and how your practices in what your practices are rooted. So it's really to give tools to understand today and the future.
One of the things that Hartwig and I want to do with this curation, it's called Reclamation, and it's to reclaim complexity and all the things that complexity involve. And I think tonight, for me anyway, this brilliant presentation is one of the examples of it. I've had stuff I haven't thought about before, and I'm thinking about those things, and I hope that has happened for you. This isn't about answers, it isn't about a position, it isn't about anything. This curation is about complexity and going as deep as we can.